Hello, beautiful people. My name is Jesse James Gracier. I recently graduated with my PhD in pharmacology, and I'm making this YouTube channel to get in touch with people who have similar interests in science that I do. So, this presentation is on consciousness-driven evolution, Darwin's agential material. So, in previous presentations, I talked about how at the end of Darwin's life, he started to have ideas about how evolution had adaptability within its framework. And that's different from what he first came up with neo-Darwinism, because neo-Darwinism, which really took off in biology and people grasped onto quite quickly, describes how random mutations and random changes due to those mutations in organisms defines evolution. However, he also recognized that the organism's consciousness and the organism's agency, ability to have goal-oriented behavior and make decisions that even single cells have the capacity to do. He realized that just because you have a mutation that might have a negative effect, that organism has the choice to change their goal-oriented behavior to make that mutation either have a positive or negative consequence throughout its life. So that puts consciousness into the framework of evolution. I also described how energy, even chaotic energy, formed into fractal structures. And you can see that with the snowflake that I have displayed on this screen. Snowflakes form fractal structures in the atmosphere. In a similar way, fractal structures are formed through quantum scoring and quantum systems, and fractal models are used to model hurricanes to predict hurricane trajectories. So anywhere that there's chaotic energy, which is basically everywhere in space, you have an inherent fractal structure. And I think that this is important for consciousness because this gives a framework for computation anywhere in space, where anywhere you have energy that's combining together, you have a framework, a fractal framework, where it can organize into a coherent framework. So that brings me to my next slide. The Heisenberg uncertainty principle says that there's quantum fluctuations everywhere on the Planck scale. The Planck scale is a billionth of a billionth of a billionth about. So this quantum fluctuation actually connects all of space together in a fractal geometry, since at the smallest scale and even at the bigger scales of the cosmos, you still have this quantum fluctuation that connects everything. So the quantum fluctuations will create self-interference, and that will create the fractal pattern that connects all of space. So even though a lot of the models for physics has been looked at as stochastic, so random noise, random fluctuations similar to the random mutations that happen, I think inherently it intrinsically has order even in the chaos due to the fractal structure, since fractal order is the underlying mathematical geometry of chaos. This is important especially for the evolution of living systems, but not only living systems, I think even inorganic lattices probably form in a similar way, because when a crystal is made on Earth, the next time it's made, it's actually easier to make. So where is that information being stored? And I think it's being stored through holographic superradiance. So in this fractal framework, whenever you have atoms that are aligned in a coherent manner, meaning that their wave patterns have aligned together, a bunch of different atoms are close enough to their wave function actually interfere and potentiate each other to create one coherent state, that gives them the ability to produce holographic light, which will create a map of the environment, similar to how our brain creates a map of the environment for us to see as consciousness. We're taking in the light and turn it in to the conscious awareness that we see every day. And this can also have an interaction through something called liquid-liquid phase separation in intrinsically disordered biomolecular condensates, so that these holographic light maps can be used not only in the nervous system, but in all of cells, which brings me to my next slide. I have a picture representation, just a cartoon, not how I think it really looks, but you can imagine how cells that display behavior and goal-oriented behavior, they find stuff to eat, they find a home, they do stuff like that. You can imagine that they're also making some kind of consciousness that's very different from ours, but they're making some type of map inside where they have an idea of where things are and what they need to do. It just happens to be a lot smaller than what we can imagine. And this all works through holographic superradiance, which is happening in the aromatic residues of proteins and aromatic residues of nucleic acids aligning together and allowing them to release coherent light. So I think an information field equation is good to map this holographic coherence, and it could be a good summation so that we can understand how the information transfer is happening between atoms, nervous systems, even something as big as solar systems and planets, and the whole cosmos, and how this information transfer pervades all of space. So the take home is that fractal synchronicity is a driver of emergent evolution. So we can understand the evolution of many different systems in nature, both in life, like the photosynthetic complexes in plants, the vascular branching in biology, and even the cosmic web structures in astrophysicists. But it can also give us an idea about the emergent evolution that happens during critical transitions throughout evolution. So if you have this fractal framework, whenever you have two coherent patterns that synchronize together and create a new geometry, that's where you have new emergent patterns forming, just like life formed on Earth. And all of this information, not only in living systems, but in inorganic systems, can be thought of as a conscious force that pervades space in an information field. So consciousness is information, and I think that that is going to be the next step for science to start thinking everything from an informational standpoint. I hope you enjoyed this video, wonderful people, and I hope we can start conversations about this, because this is probably one of my more far out videos, more hypothetical videos, but it's something that I'm very excited about. Have a good one.